Shalom, shalom, and Mazel Tov for the new year of Kabbalah Café, starting Bereishit, beginning right after Simchat Torah. The first parsha, and it's not just one of the other parshas, but it's a major, very important parsha, the parasha of Bereishit. Firstly, I'd like to thank Gershom and Rachel Dandy for sponsoring this special edition of the Kabbalah Café in honor of the Refuah Shalema of Michal Ze'ev ben Genendel. And of course, thank you to Mordechai and Raya for broadcasting this shir live. Welcome, everybody. And this parsha is a very, very special one. First of all, because it's the first one. So if the Torah tells us that in Bereishit, in the beginning, Hashem created the heavens and the earth, that means that there's something that we can learn from this. The Torah is not just telling us something that happened 5,782 years ago. Rather, every single moment, Hashem creates the world anew. And moreover, Adam HaRishon, he was considered, since he was the first man, the first human being, Hashem gave him what's called, according to the Arizal, neshama klalit, a general neshama, which means that Adam HaRishon had the ability to include within himself all of the neshamot of all of Am Yisrael for all the generations. That's why the famous story is about Adam HaRishon, that Hashem showed him all of the generations that are going to come, and he saw a great neshama of David HaMelech, and he said, how long is this neshama supposed to live for? And he said, for 3 hours. So Adam HaRishon said, for 3 hours? Adam gave him 70 years of his life. So instead of living for 1,000 years that he was supposed to live, he lived for only 930 years. In fact, this parsha covers the longest span of years. The parsha goes from the year 1 until 1600 of the creation of the world. So in other words, once again, we find how this parsha is a general parsha. It's a very important, and not just the first. And so therefore, hopefully, being that we are part of Adam HaRishon, we should also be able to be blessed and have the same energy and the same open our own new page to start our own beginning, Bereishit. The story is told of a gardener. He walks into the hardware store and he asks the owner, can I please borrow your phone for a few minutes? And he starts, the guy says, sure. So he starts calling people and he says, Shalom, I'm a great gardener and I'd like to have the honor to take care of your garden. And the person was so nice and they said, you're such a wonderful person, but you know what? We have an excellent gardener and we really don't need your, obviously this joke did not happen in Shemitah. And then he called another guy, and he made a whole list of phone calls. And the owner of the hardware store feels really bad for this guy. So after he finishes, he says, you know what? I see that you have a bright future, you have a lot of energy, and I feel bad for you that you're calling so many people, and Hashem will strengthen you, and soon you'll be able to really be successful in your work. So he said, I'll tell you the truth. I only received compliments by these phone calls. So he says, compliments? What kind of compliments did you receive? He said, I am the gardener for all these people, but I never hear any compliments. So this is my opportunity to hear from all the people how wonderful their current gardener is. When we look at this week's parsha in Bereishit, we talk about the idea of one of the main subjects which are discussed is the subject of the sin of Adam HaRishon. Adam and Chava sinned. They ate from the Eitz Hadat, the tree of knowledge. What happened? Hashem told them not to eat from this tree, and they went ahead and they did eat from the tree. What happened by the fact that they ate from the apple from the tree? They received da'at, they received knowledge. That sounds pretty strange. Hashem told them not to eat from the tree, and when they did not listen and they ate from the tree, they received, it sounds like they received the prize. They received the reward. Usually someone that may violate a sin gets a punishment. Perhaps in this case they should have less knowledge. Why is it that they received more knowledge? For example, when the angels heard that Hashem was creating man, they said, "What is this species that you are about to create?" So Hashem told them, he's one that has a lot of chachma, a lot of wisdom. Why? What's the proof? So Hashem said, because he's going to be able to call names to all of my creations. And that's what it says in the Chumash from Monday, that Hashem brought all of the animals in front of Adam HaRishon, and he called the animals with their names. So the Maggid of Mezrich asks, what's the big deal? To call a name? Just make up any word, and that becomes the name for that individual. Why do you need to have such a great level of wisdom, of chachma? And the Maggid of Mezrich answers and explained at great length by the Alter Rebbe that it's not just like any other language where someone woke up one day and just decided to call a name to some animal or to some object. Rather, he called the name of Lashon HaKodesh, of Hebrew. And when you call a name, when you have a special level of chachma, a special wisdom, that you're able to see the source of the neshama of that object, and that is true chachma. That is true wisdom, true vision. And so Adam HaRishon had that chachma beforehand. He had that chachma, the wisdom. So when we say that when Adam HaRishon, he ate from the tree of knowledge, and then he received knowledge, he received, in addition to the chachma, in addition to his wisdom, he received knowledge. He was very wise before. But what did he receive? He received knowledge. So we really need to understand, what is this subject of knowledge? What does it add? Beforehand he also had wisdom. He was also smart. So what is this concept of knowledge? And when you say the word Chabad, Chabad is an acronym of 3 words: Chachma, Bina, and Da'at. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. These are 3 different levels, 3 different types in the process of us understanding the concept. That's how Hashem created us. Chachma is the point, the flash. You have an idea, or someone explains a shir, or someone shares. Before you develop it, that's the chachma. Then it comes down into Bina. Bina elaborates, dissects the concept until you understand all the details. But then you can go ahead and continue your life, and it may not have any effect on your life. For example, there's a child. A child can come home Can be a very, very gifted child, and he could say the entire page of Talmud that he learned by heart, the word for word, and explain exactly what the Rashi says. And then he can go, if he's a child, and he can go and he can play with his toys. So a child is a child, but an adult will usually take it in and usually be able to maybe be emotional. If it's a happy subject, it'll be really happy. If it's a sad subject, why is that? Because an adult has doubt. What happens at a bar or bat mitzvah? Bar mitzvah, a boy at 13 years old, and bat mitzvah, a girl at 12 years old. A child matures. Girls mature younger than boys usually. And the idea of the maturing is the da'at. You could be a very smart child, but usually there's no da'at, there's no knowledge. The knowledge, in Hebrew, it's called a gesher, a bridge. The knowledge is the bridge between the intellect and the emotions. The objective is that when Hashem gives us the ability to learn Torah, we should become better people. Unlike Aristotle, who was a tremendous genius, but they once found him, his students, once found him doing something very, very immoral. And they said, Aristotle, is that you? He says, now I'm not Aristotle. So he had a very big gap between his genius and between his emotion. And we learning Torah, now that we just celebrated Simchat Torah and we're starting the Torah anew, we need to take a resolution that we should learn Torah, especially in a way that it has a positive effect on us. So Adam HaRishon and Chava, they had da'at beforehand too. What was their da'at? What was their level of da'at? It was knowledge in Kedusha. Adam HaRishon was a tzaddik. He knew lots of Torah, including Kabbalah, that it had a very positive effect on his life. But when it came to evil, in Hebrew, evil is Ra. Ra is evil. There was no connection to evil. There was no da'at. Remember we said that that's the gesher, the bridge. His knowledge of the concept of evil did not affect him in an inner way. It was external. He knew the idea, but it wasn't something which had an effect on his life. When Chava ate from the tree of knowledge, and then Adam did too, what happened was that Ra, evil, became that. It became connected to evil, which is a whole new level. When Hashem created the world only with good. There was only a potential for bad. It was only when it came to the da'at, it was only that there was no da'at, there was no connection, an inner connection to evil. It was only a concept, only external. And unfortunately, when Adam and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadat, they developed a connection to evil, and from then and on, there is not only theoretical evil in the world, but also practical evil. This is why they had to put on clothes. What happened to this dot? They realized that we need to have protection. If a person wants to be safe in an unsafe world, so you have to put on quote unquote clothes. These clothes Hashem created that they can protect us, that we can be better people, that the evil of the world should not affect us. And today, more than ever, we need to have these protections. We need to have these filters to keep us away from some of the terrible stuff that's out there in the world. If we need to capture this whole idea of knowledge of evil in one word, it's ego. The eating from the tree of knowledge created the connection to evil, which is basically ego. The Eitz Hadat implanted into a person his ego and his very, very clear stance in his own world, in his life. When the godly soul was the only governor in the person, then Adam Arishon had bittul. He was selfless. He didn't feel himself to be any big player. His ego didn't have any role. But the moment that the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, came into him through eating it from the Eitz Hadat, that's when the ego came into him, and this is the source of all evil. There was once a person he was crazy over his cars, and he bought new cars and he fixed them, and they were the best. He always putting better parts into the car, and then when he was coming closer to 120 or 180, he bought himself a place in the cemetery, a plot, but not one plot, 8 plots. So the secretary of the funeral home said, "Why do you need 8 plots?" So he said he wanted to be buried with his car. He was so into he needed enough space. The true tragedy is that even though the essence of a person is total good, from then when Adam and Chava ate from the tree of knowledge, it seems to be as if evil is part of the person. The evil is called in Kabbalah and Chassidut klipa, to tell us that the klipa, which is like the peel or the shell, is not the thing itself. It's only an addition to the person. So nobody can chas v'shalom give up or say that they're a lost case, they're too much involved in the evil. No, it's only an external part of the person. It's impossible that the evil should take over the true pnimiyut, the true inner part of the Jew. And the same thing applies to the whole idea of the ego. The ego, that which makes us feel so central by ourselves and in any situation, in any environment that we may find ourselves, me. It's not the real you. Our true existence is really bittul and selflessness towards Hashem. There was a person who was at a Farbrengen, and he was deep into the Farbrengen. He said as follows. He said, I came to the Farbrengen, and they spoke about how beautiful the Torah is and how wonderful the godly soul, the neshama, is within us. And then they explained that the essence of a person is the neshama, and the inclination is only an external part. So the person said, I listened to what was being said. And he continues that the whole time he always has these thoughts that come from somewhere external. He said, I don't ask these bad thoughts to come into my mind. I don't want them. They're guests, they're unwanted guests. So the mashpia, the Rav who was leading the Farbrengen, he told the person that really those thoughts are not you. They're not part of you. And Alter Rebbe explains this in the Tanya. They really are just external. And he said, then he remembered about a certain research that had been done, that they put electric wires to the mind of a person, and they flow electricity in different parts of the brain, and through that they could try to energize it. They want to try to lift his hands, to put his hands down, things that he didn't want to do, and that caused for the brain to give an instruction without the person even wanting to do that. So this was so this person was able to understand that very often there are things which are unwanted, and hopefully that gives a good perspective to a person. Really, it's we are good, and therefore we have to be partners with HaKadosh Baruch Hu to create good energy wherever we are, which includes learning Torah and doing mitzvot, and that is the message of what Adam and Chava did. Because until today, anytime someone does something which is unwanted and bad, we receive a punishment which is a continuation from the punishment from the eating from the tree of knowledge. But when we try to fix that, and we use our da'at, we use our knowledge to understand godliness, then we focus the knowledge, that the knowledge shouldn't be for the negativity, but we get rid of negativity and we focus only on the good. This is why it says that when Mashiach comes, we're going to, all of the good deeds that we did piles up, not only from us, but it's also all the good deeds from all the generations. So the famous question is that why shouldn't we say the same thing about the negative deeds? All the negative deeds also seem to pile up and accumulate. So maybe, God forbid, that will total in something terrible. And so the answer is that the nature of good is that the good stays forever. The nature of evil is that evil goes away. It does not have a sustenance. So therefore, by definition, evil, if someone does another thing or another generation, after a while it goes away. But when it comes to positive things, mitzvahs, even though we may see ourselves as being, relatively speaking, limited in our good and our mitzvahs, but every mitzvah that we do accumulates, and all the mitzvahs from all the generations also accumulate. And so therefore, we are going to be the ones to merit the coming of Mashiach. Thank you so much for joining us. Bezrat Hashem, every morning, 9:15. We're going to be starting a new subject. We'll be sending out a message, hopefully on Sunday. And two important announcements. The Beit Midrash is starting again after the Chagim this Sunday. So every Sunday and Tuesday will be in English, 10 to 12, and every Monday and Thursday Monday and Thursday will be for Hebrew speakers. Bezrat Hashem. And also we have a lecture, a big lecture coming up this Tuesday night in person in Chabad. So please stay tuned to all of your messages. Bezrat Hashem. All the best. Have a wonderful Shabbat. We look forward to seeing you tonight and tomorrow. We're going to have Tehillim for the Shabbat Mevarchim for blessing the new month of Cheshvan at 8:30. 9 o'clock will be Chassidut and 9:30 is Daven. Shalom, shalom. Be well.